It's a show business. It's not show fun times with friends. Without the movies, they're not bringing people into the parks. But the positive side of this is hopefully the board has now seen they need to make some changes, that their current path is not working.
Welcome again to another episode of Blam Blam Truckers. I'm Buse, that's
I'm
Beas,
Beas.
and we're going to get straight into it tonight. So today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Disney vote, which should be happening this upcoming Wednesday. I'm going to try to get this video out before the vote, but let's get into it. So, Beas, what's going on with this? What's this all about?
So the Disney stock is down. Last year or the year before, it was at $170 a share. It's down to $90-ish a share, a little bit above that. Maybe it's poking around 100 sometimes, depends on when you check on the value of the stock. And the reason why Disney stock is down is because park attendance is down, movies are breaking even at best, and Disney Plus is not trending toward profit. And Disney Plus is supposed to be making a profit this year. 2024 is when they promised it would make us a profit, and it's not. So the stock value is down. The Disney basically, and this isn't us trying to be negative or anything, Disney needs to make a turnaround if it's going to continue to be a successful company. Right now, it's pretty much just treading water, like we said. So, as one of the largest stockholders in Disney, Nelson Peltz has has put his name forward, and with someone else, Rizzuto, I think the guy's name is his last name, have put their names to be considered for the board. They want 2 board spots on the board of Disney. And it's been a big deal here in the geekdomverse. A lot of people are looking forward to a change with Disney. And there's also another group of contenders who put their names in, who are backed by BlackRock Group, which is another big stockholder. But Nelson Peltz is the single largest shareholder in Disney right now. There's not a lot more to say, honestly, about the board vote. Nelson Peltz is not trying to replace Bob Iger as CEO. That's rather obvious. He just wants a seat on the board, and he wants Rizzuto with him. The Rizzuto guy, if I'm getting his name right, I don't have it up in front of me on the screen over here. He worked for Disney for 30 years, and he was the chief financial officer that's how he ended his career there, which is a huge position. CFO, major position in a company. Really knows the company inside and out. Great choice for a board member. He was in consideration for replacing Bob Iger at one point during Bob Iger's long career. Bob Iger decided not to retire, and Rizzuto moved on to other things. And now he's looking to come back to Disney as a board member. Now, I'm not telling you guys how to vote or whether or not to buy Disney stock. You should seek a financial advisor or a business advisor or somebody who actually knows more about it. We're just here to tell you a little bit about what's going on. And yeah, I think we also want to talk about how, sadly, Disney has not been doing well at the box office lately, and that their park attendance is down, and they're not putting the money into the parks to improve them the same way Universal is.
Which is interesting because I was looking over numbers and such before we started the episode, and yes, park attendance does appear to be down, but the funny thing is, it was actually going up quite a bit, and it was getting close to pre-2020 levels back in 2022. So in 2020, obviously, everything sucked because everything was shut down. 2021, things started to improve, but it still was not quite even at halfway. But then for 2022, it was up within a quarter of what it had been back in 2019. And so for the 2023 numbers, which are somewhat speculative based on everything I found, but based on groups that like kind of watch park attendance and stuff like that, it was down. That's a little surprising because Disney's supposed to be the happiest place on earth, and people aren't going there. I guess it's not as happy.
So one of the things that the board has to keep in mind is that the moneymaker for Disney has been the parks. That is their financial powerhouse. they can withstand a lot of failures at the box office if the parks are going strong. But if the parks aren't going strong, they can't withstand failures at the box office like every other movie company out there, like Warner Brothers, like Universal, Paramount. They need to make money at the box office. They need to make a net profit at the box office. They can have a couple of losses and a couple of wins, and as long as the wins outweigh the losses, they can keep going forward. Disney, with all the parks behind them and the ridiculous amount of money they brought in from those parks, they were able to withstand a lot more loss at the box office to find one or two big hits. So a series of movies like Pirates of the Caribbean brings people to the parks. So they tried to do a couple other rides. Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy, that didn't make money. Tomorrowland with George Clooney, that didn't make money.
You're forgetting they did another Haunted Mansion without Eddie Murphy like a year or two ago, and that didn't make much money either.
Okay. So all you truckers out there, you use a different part of your brain when you're doing a presentation than when you're trying to remember stuff. So right now I'm on talking. I'm not on accessing the deep memory. I'm kind of, if my brain was a computer, I'm using what's in the RAM. Okay. Now I'm not driving back into the hard drive right now. It's also why people tend to look a little bit more foolish when they're doing public speaking or famously, Dan Quayle misspelled potato and didn't catch himself because he wasn't thinking about how to spell potato. He was trying to focus on his presentation while giving a speech. So
it's the reason why incredibly smart people might miss questions on game shows.
Yeah, things you actually know. So anyway, they're trying to get people to come to the parks by making movies about the rides, and the movies didn't take off. And they've had a lot of failures lately. And without the park revenue there, they can't withstand that as well right now. And without the movies, they're not bringing people into the parks either, because one of the reasons why everybody wanted to go to Disney when I was a kid was because we all watched the Disney afternoon. DuckTales, Goof Troop. Goof Troop was a little after my time. Chippendales Rescue Rangers, Tailspin,
Aladdin.
There was an Aladdin show, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. I watched it.
Yeah. So all of the little, like the Disney Channel shows, they'll make you love this stuff, and then you find out you can actually go and see this stuff, like, and interact with these people and these characters and talk to them, and little kids get hugs and stuff from Donald Duck and whatnot. Yeah, that's a huge draw in. So they use their media empire to draw people into the parks. The parks is where they make most of their money. Not that they don't like making money off movies, because, hey, it's a show business. It's not show fun times with friends. Anyway, they also have the carnival rides, and they own some other companies, but the main part of their business is the parks. And they're not adding many attractions. They spent most of their money turning Splash Mountain, the number one roller coaster, if you even want to call it that, the number one attraction in the world was Splash Mountain. They're turning that into Tiana's Bayou. Wow, the Louisiana Bayou. Thank you. Bayou Adventure. I'm saying Bayou, and I'm like, there's an O in there. How do I pronounce this word? Bayou.
That's normally what I say in MMOs when I need to go to the bathroom.
Bayou. Anyway, little Linda Ronstadt for you guys. So they turned that into a different ride. They rethemed it. But in the meantime, it's down, and people can't go on the ride. And a lot of the people who are big park aficionados don't really like the changes. But the positive side of this is hopefully the board has now seen they need to make some changes, that their current path is not working. Having Nelson Peltz and the other guys challenging for seats on the board, something that happened very rarely under most of Bob Iger's tenure, should hopefully be a wake-up call to both Bob and the board. You guys need to change stuff. It's not working. Now, we've said on this channel more than once, far more than once, that Companies are more than welcome to chase after different audiences to change their customer bases. That's their prerogative as a business. I'm not denying that in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of these companies, including Disney, have said they don't want me as a customer anymore. They don't want my business anymore. I'm not their target audience. And that's fine. Frankly, I aged out of Disney a long time ago. Maybe not Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but cartoons like Moana and what's the other one there with the Let It Go song? Frozen.
Frozen?
Thank you. I've only seen Frozen once, folks. It is aimed at children. It is very much so aimed at children and young adults, and I'm not their target audience for that. I am not the target audience of Moana, though I did enjoy Moana a bit more than Frozen. And yeah, don't go to the theater to go watch Disney princess cartoons. Not that there's anything wrong with Disney princess cartoons. My nieces still love them, and they're almost in their 20s now.
My wife still likes them, and we're in our 40s.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
No.
I'm a single guy in my 40s. I'm not that intrigued by Disney princess movies, not enough to go out and spend $15 at the theater. I'm not their target audience. I wasn't their target audience for that. Now they don't want me as their target audience for Marvel or Star Wars. Okay, you don't want me, I'm not coming. But if you decide you do want me back as a customer, which might be the path, or aiming more at a general audience instead of at a specific audience, so more broad appeal, I think they're going to do better with that. I think that's something Nelson Peltz is interested in doing. I've been reading his interviews and watching both sides so I can make an intelligent vote. I think Nelson Peltz is making that a very obvious part of his campaign, is that they need to appeal to general audiences more again. And I think that's a good thing. I think it will draw people back to theaters, telling classic stories with classic storylines. You know, I was watching a thing on Star Wars today, somebody else's YouTube video, and they had in it a quote from George Lucas. And he said back in 1977, one of the broad appeals to Star Wars, one of the reasons why it was so successful, wasn't the special effects, though the special effects were world class and the best ever seen on screen at the time in 1977. He said it wasn't the special effects. It was that it's a classic story. It has heroes, it has villains, and there's a lot of appeal to that, and that people hadn't seen that very often anymore. And that giving people that on screen, giving them a classic story they could love, drew people into the movie theaters. And that's where I think Disney really needs to go with this. It's back to the lesson that George Lucas taught us back in 77. And if you're a film buff, which I'm not, but I've watched more than a few, in the mid to late 70s, we didn't have a lot of heroes. It was a very dark time for cinema, kind of a gritty time. We were coming into the 80s where we would have a lot of heroic tales, and Star Wars had a lot to do with that. And then the economy and the state of the nation and the zeitgeist, if you will. But yeah, Star Wars was a turning point in cinema that brought us to more happy, positive outlook sort of movies. And that's really where I'm hoping Disney goes, whether Nelson Peltz gets in or the the green card people get in, because there's the white card, the blue card, and the green card, if I remember correctly, which are the different slates. In a campaign, They're called slates. Those are the three different slates. So whichever slate actually gets in, and we're only arguing over 2 seats here. This is not going to change the entire board. It's not going to radicalize Disney. It's 2 seats out of, I forget if it's 8 or 12, something like that.
You wouldn't know that from the Vote Disney stuff I've been getting on my Facebook every day, but
oh, Disney's going full court press over this, and I don't know why. It's 2 seats. One of them is your largest shareholder. Just give them the seat already. Well, don't.
No,
use your process, use your bylaws, vote how you need to. Go ahead.
I do have a question. I don't want us to go too long on it, but just, I'd been doing some reading. What do you know about the whole Ike Perlmutter thing? Because apparently they're saying that part of this guy going up for these seats is part of a revenge plot by Ike Perlmutter.
That's a horrifically biased bit of journalism right there. Ike Perlmutter is one of the largest shareholders in Disney.
Mm-hmm.
He was the previous owner of Marvel Entertainment, including Marvel Comics and the Marvel Studios, which creates the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He was the one in charge of the TV stuff, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So when he sold to Disney, Disney left him in charge of the studio. And slowly, as the new owners, they crept in and took more and more power away from him. Finally, they, at one point, after a few years, they took him out from being the top guy in the movies. So they put Kevin Feige in charge of being the top guy in the movies and left Perlmutter in charge of the TV shows. We've talked about Perlmutter on the show before. I'm a big fan of Ike Perlmutter. I'm not as big of a fan of Kevin Feige, and that has not always been the case. I thought Kevin Feige was a genius. Ike Perlmutter is he's more of a businessman than Kevin Feige is. He's watching the bottom line. And if it's bad for business, he doesn't want to do it. Not because of racial concerns or gender concerns or anything like that, but because of money concerns. So if female-led superhero movies don't work, don't make them. That's a pretty harsh statement, but I understand where he's coming from.
He wants to make money. I mean,
Yeah.
he wants the company that he's invested in to make money. And unfortunately, even if it's against his personal feelings on a topic, he wants the company to make money.
So if it's not selling, don't do it. So what if it's, then don't make a female-led movie. I get that. Instead, put the females in the movies. He never stopped them from ever putting any women in any of the movies. Black Widow especially comes to mind, but the choices of who was in the movies, he didn't really care about that as long as the movies were making money. Female-led superhero movies rarely make money. Sometimes they make a lot of money, but usually they don't. Look at Elektra. Look at Wonder Woman 2. And on the other side of money-making movies, you've got Wonder Woman. You have Aliens. You have, it's hard to think of these, The Long Kiss Goodnight, which wasn't a superhero movie, it was an action movie, but, you have Kill Bill.
Terminator 2.
There you go. So, yeah, Ike Perlmutter is he looking for revenge? That's a really harsh way to put it. They kicked him out of his own company. So, yeah, I think he'd like to come back and make sure his company remains profitable. I think he cares more about money than he does about revenge because he owns a lot of Disney. He owns a lot of Disney. When Marvel was bought for around $4 billion, most of that was stock. It wasn't cash. So they gave Ike Perlmutter a chunk of stock and billions of dollars worth of stock. And now he's watched that value go up and down, and it's on a downward trend. He liked it under Bob Chapek when it was $170 a share, which was the height of it under Bob Chapek. But now that it dipped below 80 within the last year, for the first time in almost a decade, the stock value dipped below 80. And the only reason why it went back up is because Nelson Peltz started this play. It was upon the announcement that Nelson Peltz was putting his hat in the ring that the stock price went back up to 90. It was the same day. Disney announced nothing else that day. Disney didn't even announce that Nelson Peltz was putting his hat in the ring. So, yeah, we're not telling you how to vote. We're not telling you what to do with your money or how to invest. But we're hoping that no matter how this plays out, Disney takes a cue from this and turns their company around, starts making more general audience focused movies.
All right, sounds good. I know I learned something today.
We're 20 minutes in. Do you want to take a couple of minutes and talk about what was your favorite thing Disney did in the last year? Do you have any?
I mean, I don't know from the last year, but I've mentioned it before, but I will say it again. Speaking of female superheroes,
Okay.
I really like what Disney has done with Miss Marvel, specifically with that actress and the writing team that seems to be behind her. that if they, I'm not necessarily, you know me, I don't necessarily say money is always the answer, because it's not. You can throw money after a good thing and have it do nothing because it's not worth it to throw more money behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But that character has got a decent appeal to a lot of people, and I would probably try to continue to play up the more young adult teen angle, at least with her. And she's just a joy to watch. She was the best. I finally watched the Marvels. She
Okay.
was the absolute best part of that movie.
Good.
Absolutely best part of it. A lot of it I could take or leave, but she is a joy to watch. It seems like she is a young actress who enjoys acting. She loves the character she's doing. Watching her play Miss Marvel is like watching Ryan Reynolds play Deadpool, and I think that they made a great decision with casting and with sinking a lot of stuff into her, and that's kind of where I'll go. And I know that might not be the question you asked, but that's the question I'm answering. So now you.
My favorite thing Disney put out in the last 12 months was easily Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is far and away my least favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I didn't think it was a great movie. I thought it was a good movie. There's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes with James Gunn and the whole production and rigmarole that happened back there. I honestly don't think it was his best work. All the actors put in good performances, but yeah, that is my favorite thing that Disney has put out in the last year. And now we talked about the new creative direction of appealing to more general audiences. I'm sorry, I keep looking towards my monitor, which is not behind my camera, which I should probably put it there, but that's a whole nother thing. The other thing I want to bring up is that they should also be focusing on keeping costs down and refocusing on a creative team instead of working by committee. Instead of making movies by committee, you put a team together, you tell them what you want, you make sure that's what you get in the final cut, you agree on a story in advance, and you go from there. Making movies by committee, telling stories by committee is a hard enough thing to do when there's only a few people involved making those decisions. Telling stories with a larger group is much more difficult, and often it starts to fail. And I really think their budgets have ballooned to the point. We'll go back to Black Adam, which is not a Disney movie. All right, the problem with Black Adam was not that the audience didn't show up. We showed up to the tune of almost $400 million. The problem with Black Adam is that $400 million at the box office didn't let them break even. That's not on us fans. $400 million for Iron Man was enough to launch the MCU. They're only 10 years apart. Wasn't that big of a difference in inflation. So, yeah. I think that's about all we have to say. Disney, you can get better. Hopefully this fight means you're getting better. I'd like to see you all succeed. Good luck, and everybody who has to still cast their vote. And, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Tune in next time, and we'll see you, truckers.
Keep on trucking.